So the title of this chapter is called First Revelation of Redemption. So what was repeated a lot in chapter 11 was the word covenant, and so that really jumped out to me because, when it talked about Noah and basically there's the relationship that always existed because of the creation of all things. So that's what really jumped out to me, I think.
It's interesting that the covenant is initiated by God. The world is under judgment, of the flood.
Yeah.
And here we're the whole world is also under judgment, but God initiated His covenant, right? Just like with Noah, trying to save people that trusted Him. So that's why and by providing the ark, it's kind of in the same way Jesus also became our ark of salvation. That and to fulfill the promise, the covenant of salvation from God.
Yeah, and through this, I also realized that even though the covenant is between God and man, man fails sometimes, but God never fails. He's always true to His covenant. So even though He had a covenant with mankind, right from Adam all through Noah's genealogy, man fell in the garden, but then God still had His piece of the covenant and He was keeping it, right? He still loved us and He was willing to redeem us from whichever mess we had gotten ourselves into. Yeah. I mean, reading all these, I realized it's mostly focused on, trying to tell the story. But as Christians in modern day world, how would this relate to us, that the first mention of redemption? How would we relate to that as Christians in the modern day world?
I think what comes to mind when I think of God's commitment to us and His promise, His covenant, I guess in modern day world sometimes we promise people things or and we don't hold to that promise, and it's hard, because at the end of the day we're all human, and that's what the difference is with God and us. So I think it's very interesting.
That's great, and I think that's even highlights the fact that even though as human as we are, we still err. We are not perfect, and God still has that love for us and is willing and ready to redeem us from whichever mess we get ourselves into. So I feel that's one thing that I think we can also relate to as Christians in the modern day. God is still the same, still ready to redeem us from whichever thing that we get ourselves into. What about you, Darwin?
And there's a promise of redemption by coming inside the ark and staying there, and because God desire that none shall perish but have life everlasting with Him. So it's very much illustrated in the story of Noah, and it's also very much applicable to
So that means it's also applicable to the second coming of Christ, right? Even though the second coming of Christ has been portrayed as something that's quite scary, for us as Christians, who are children of God, it's more like a redemption from this earthly body, right? Great. Any other thing to say, to add onto it?
Should we move on to the
We can move on to the next.